Andre Iguodala on his podcast recently said that Rasheed Wallace was a better player than Giannis. And I'm going to read out the quote in which he basically said this. So I'm going to start now. So this is what he said, quote for quote, or quote unquote, as they would say. Rasheed Wallace probably could have been top five player in the league for a 10-year stretch. He just chose, I'll do my thing over here. He was shooting threes from half court. No, he was shooting half court shots left handed and right handed. If Rasheed Wallace played in modern day basketball today, if he played in our league today, he'd be the top five player in the league. He'd be better than Giannis, and I love Giannis. He then doubled down a few days later when he got criticized on social media about this by saying, appreciate the responses and respecting my takes to the point that we have made it to TMZ on a sports debate. The take is not a knock, but a testament to how great Giannis is. That's how good Sheed was. So I disagree with Andre Iguodala, what he said about the statement. I definitely disagree with him. I think he's way off about it. And just so you know, I was a huge fan of Rasheed Wallace growing up. I grew up in North Carolina during the 90s. I saw a lot of UNC basketball games when he was playing for the Tar Heels. I thought he was actually going to be a superstar when he was leaving UNC to go to the NBA. As a kid, I thought that's what he was going to be. I thought he was going to be a 2010 guy, a guy who goes to like 10 or 12 All-Star games. He had the talent. He really did have the talent to be a great player, to be a superstar, but he never utilized it. It just never came through. He showed flashes of it at times of being great, but I think what it really came down to is that Rasheed never wanted to be great in the sense of the typical dedication it takes to being a great player. I guess in the sense that he didn't have that aggressiveness that he wanted to be the man every game. Some games he had it. There's some games I can remember where he took over. Like for instance, that Game 7 against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I think he was the best player on the court in that game. I can't remember how much he had, but I believe he had 30 some points, and he just played out of his mind in that game. He was better than Shaq, better than Kobe in that game. Unfortunately, due to questionable calls down the stretch in that game, and it caused the Blazers just choking in the fourth quarter, they lost that game. But he definitely was the guy in that game. He was aggressive. He almost carried them to victory. He would have another great playoff game that sticks out to my mind. I don't remember how many points in this game he had, but it was a crucial game against the Pistons back in 2004. I meant to say crucial game against the Lakers in 2004, and it was in the finals. The Pistons were up 2-1 in that game four. It looked like the Lakers were going to come back and win the game and tie the series 2-2. The Lakers had tied the series 2-2. It could have been a different series and they could have possibly won. It looked like the Pistons were going to fall apart in, I believe, the fourth quarter. And then out of nowhere, Slava Medvedenko got into a confrontation with Rasheed. He started the confrontation. Rasheed then took over the game and he just took out the Lakers. He went on a run where he just put the game out of stretch for the Lakers to win. It was that was a moment where he really took over a game, but I didn't see enough of those moments from him where he stepped up throughout his career. Talent wise, he was a very good player, and what Andre did say about him is accurate. He had the ability to hit threes. He was one of the few big guys hitting threes before it became popular, him and Dirk. He was a great defensive player, great at rotating. He was the only guy in the league I felt that could contain Tim Duncan when guarding him. He was the guy who gave Tim the hardest time when guarding him. There was no other guy who could guard Tim the way Rasheed did. So that was a testament to how great of a defensive player Rasheed Wallace was. I give him that. Like just he was that great. But I think it, like I said, it comes down to the mentality. He never had the mentality to be a superstar because to be a superstar, you got to want to be aggressive every game, every night, and not hold back and be the guy every night and want to be the number one option. Rasheed never had that mentality. He didn't demand the ball like superstars do. He was a very team-oriented player, which you could say is good and bad. That he wanted the rest of his team to have a collective offense. So he was that type of guy. He wanted to share the ball. He didn't want to hog it. which you could respect, but a superstar has to have that edge where they want to have all the touches first and everyone else gets it after. And Rasheed just didn't have it. Excuse me. Now, when you look at his stats, like he never had a season where he averaged 20 points a game throughout his career. All the great big men in that era had seasons where they averaged 20 points a game. Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan, even guys who were kind of second tier like Elton Brand, Pau Gasol, I believe they had some 20-point seasons. Rasheed never had that, and that goes again to show his mentality. So I don't know how Rasheed would be any different in his era. Yes, this era favors his style of play. He would be great in this era, just like he was in his era, the '90s and 2000s, for sure. I think Rasheed probably would go to a few All-Star games in this era, but he would be pretty much about the same player he was back then. I don't really see a change because it comes down to him being aggressive, which you're not going to get from Rasheed. He's not going to be aggressive just like what Giannis is. I think Giannis's biggest strength is his aggressiveness. He doesn't give up even when things are not going his way. Even when he's shooting poorly from the free throw line, this man could shoot 2 for 20 from the free throw line, and he's still going to try to drive to the hole and not be scared of getting fouled. He'll just keep doing it. I think that was evident last year against the Nets in Game 7 when he was struggling from the free throw line, and the Brooklyn Net fans are mocking him, but he didn't give up. He kept on going for more, and eventually the free throws started dropping for him. Just Giannis' biggest strength is his aggressiveness. He will keep coming at you, and he won't stop. And that's a sign of being a superstar, which he is. Rasheed just did not have that mentality. I think another thing Giannis has over Rasheed is that he's just physically bigger than Rasheed. The man is built like a tank. Rasheed was a moderately strong guy, but he wasn't built like a truck. Giannis is. He has that extra dimension to his game. I know people don't like Giannis's game. They think it's ugly the way he can run over guys and he can go through them, but the man is a freak of nature. Just you can't compare Rasheed to him physically. It's just no contest. Giannis is just stronger and that just opens up things on the offensive end for his team. He can get doubled, tripled, and that leads to other guys getting easy buckets. Just Giannis has just a stronger center of gravity due to his physical gifts, which Rasheed never had. And on top of that, Giannis is just more athletic than what Rasheed was during his career. And I saw young Rasheed, I saw prime Rasheed, and he's just not on that level athletically. Just not on that level. Giannis is also a better defensive player. He won Defensive Player of the Year twice, I believe. Rasheed Wallace never won Defensive Player of the Year, but he was a great player. But that just shows you how great Giannis is. So I just think Andre is full of shit when he said what he said. I just think that he's just full of crap. I also think it says some things about Andre and the way the rest of the league views Giannis. I do believe that a lot of these players don't respect Giannis, and it's not because he's not talented. It has a lot to do with Giannis not being American. They view Giannis as this foreign guy who came into their league and just dominated them. So they kind of view him as an outsider, that he's not American. He doesn't come from the same culture that these guys grew up in. So they can't relate to him, and there's like no kinship, towards him like they have towards other guys that grew up in the same environments they did. So I think a lot of that has to do with this. Just he's not part of the popular crowd, so they're going to try to diminish his achievements and accomplishments. But I think that also has to do with their insecurities. They just don't like a non-American black guy dominating them. They would prefer a black American who grew up here to be the best player in this league. That's what I really think it comes down to. I also think maybe Andre's trying to do some gamesmanship with Giannis and the Bucks, thinking that the Warriors could possibly go back to the finals and face them next year. I don't know if he's trying to get the mental edge. That could be the case too, but I thought it was a very stupid, disrespectful thing to say about Giannis. That's like saying I can't even think of an analogy because it's just that stupid, but it just shows again just how these current homegrown NBA players don't like these foreign guys. And I think there's a lot of insecurity that's going to keep building up over the years because you look at it right now. I think the last several MVP winners have been foreign guys. Think about it. This year it was Jokic. Last year it was Jokic. and the year before it was Giannis, and then the year before that it was Giannis. So it's been a while since we've had a American-born MVP winner. Last four MVP winners have been foreign-born. So I think that really irks a lot of these young guys. And you just look at the league right now. Like you look at Luka Doncic, he's probably going to win an MVP sometime during his career in the next few years if he continues to play at the high level he's playing. And the Mavs, they continue to be even somewhat decent. You know, if he can replicate what he did last year and get them a top four seed, he could be in the running for MVP this year. You also see the hype of just these young, European players that are getting a lot of hype that are coming into the league. Like the prospects, it seems like they are producing better prospects at this moment. Like for example, right now, I can't say this guy's name correctly, but I'm gonna take a shot at it. There's this guy who's projected to be the number one pick for next year's NBA draft, and his name is Victor Wembanyama. This guy is from France. He's supposed to be, I think, 7'3", 7'4". They project him as a Kevin Durant type of player, except he's even taller. And this guy's supposed to be the number one pick. He's supposed to be a generational talent, and he's only 18 right now. But he's supposed to be the best prospect in the whole entire world, even better than the top American prospects. So you just kind of look at it that this current trend with all these foreign players being not just good players but MVP players, MVP caliber players, and you see a league of domestic-born NBA American players feeling threatened, and when you feel threatened, there's also hatred and disrespect, and I think that plays a role in what we're seeing right now, just with Andre's stupid statements and potentially other guys to say stupid things as the years go by about not just Giannis but these other top-notch foreign talented players. That's the way I view all this stuff, but let me know what you think.